Hello everyone, and welcome to another Quarrier Football Pregame Show brought to you by the local best. It's where to go before you go. Colin Beckler, Matt Larson with you on our final pregame show of the season as we hit the semifinals tonight. Dell Rapids 7-3 at Madison 10-0. And before we preview the big game coming up tonight, I want to go through the 11A playoffs that started last week. Some interesting games last week. We saw number 1 Madison over number 8 Sioux Falls Christian 35-14. Probably no surprise with that one. A good one in Dell Rapids. The Quarriers' third time is a charm against West Central there. Number 4 Quarriers over number 5 West Central 19-15. A bit of a surprise last week, I thought. If you look at the seeds, number 7 Millbank over number 2 Canton 6-0. And then Vermilion, the 3 seed, getting a little bit of revenge on Tri-Valley from earlier this regular season. 21-7 winners over the Mustangs. So tonight, semifinals. It is number 4 Dell Rapids at number 1 Madison, number 7 Millbank at number 3 Vermilion tonight. And let's talk about the 11A playoffs. So what are your reaction to last week's games?
Well, you know, I've always said this, 11A playoffs, it's a whole new season. And by Millbank really coming out of nowhere, really kind of unheard of the whole season, getting that 7th seed. And once again, it proves that at any time, we've been the 7th seed, we've gone, and beat the 2. This is just, telltale sign of what actually can happen. It's anybody's game. It's a brand new season, and it is really wide up and, toss up in the air of who's going to win these games.
Yeah, we've got some great games tonight that we're going to keep our eyes on throughout the night. So let's turn our attention to our game tonight, Dell Rapids at Madison. Tough game here for the Quarriers. The Bulldogs undefeated on the season, but not only that, they've been kind of running through everybody this year. That included a 35-7 win over the Quarriers about a month ago at the beginning of October. They've had a couple close games. They were on back-to-back weeks that mid-September at Vermilion, 37-26 win there, and then at home against Millbank. We talked about Millbank holding Madison to only 9 points in that game, the Bulldogs winning 9-0. But outside of those two games, what, in your opinion, has made Madison so good this year?
Well, we talked earlier that they kind of were unheard of. We didn't really talk about them in any preseason poll, and they just kept going and getting better and better and week after week. And I remember sitting here before we played them thinking that I think their weakness would be their defensive backs. Well, that's not the case anymore. And so what really makes Madison good, really there's 2 things. Defense. By far, even that they get these close scores, they still hold the other team to 0. And their ability to start quick in most of these games, to score right away on us. 2 of their first 3 drives, they had scores on us. And then that can kind of sometimes make kids, get a little, antsy. It may change the game plan for the coaches. You just got to kind of hang in there and keep with your game plan.
So the Quarriers, their last loss was in fact to Madison on that October 8th, and since then they've had wins over Dakota Valley on homecoming, end of the regular season on the road at Tri-Valley with a big win there, and then last week, always a tough game against West Central, especially in the playoffs, finally got that win over them 19-15. So let's look at those 3 games, and in your opinion, how has the team been playing these 3 weeks, and maybe even especially last week in getting that playoff win?
Yeah, I think right now Dell Rapids is playing their best football. Okay, so we get to those games, Dakota Valley, then at Tri-Valley on kind of a cold night, but we just played well. A lot of teammates got involved. The fourth quarter was strictly JV. And then we get into West Central, and, 2 out of the last 3 years, we faced them first, and 2 of them they beat us. So is there revenge? That game's at home, but still, that's in your head. And it still was only 19-15. If you were in the crowd or even watching, it was a great game. I mean, no one knew until the final. I mean, they had a drive going down there with 30 seconds left. I mean, you just don't know. But I think the Quarriers persevered. We have a lot of kids playing really well on defense right now. And the team that's going to Madison this time versus 5 weeks ago, much different in my opinion.
So let's transition into the keys of the game. You mentioned the team's playing really well, and I like to go back to 2018. You look at this, it's a number 4 versus number 1, but I remember 3 years ago, we went to Madison, ended up losing 28-7 last regular season game. 6 days later, went to Madison again, beat them in the playoffs 14-13 on that run to the Dome. Yep. So with that, what are the keys to the game here tonight?
So for Madison, the last time we played them, our defensive backs, had a hard game. For lack of better terms, they just did. Now, they have improved exponentially since then. So, but I think Madison needs to spread out and challenge. They're going to run 3, 4, 5 receivers sometimes, right? And really challenge our secondary. See if we have gotten better, right? That's a weakness. I think they're going to try to, get that. Also, time of possession. They have the ability to run and just keep running it. And so I think it's key that they hold on to the ball so we don't get it. And also, and we've seen other teams have success with this, it's when you force Austin out of the pocket. He does have design rollouts each way, but when he takes a 5-step drop or if he's in shotgun and he takes 1 step and look, if he feels pressure, he's out. Those routes are done running. And so then he just has to kind of create things. And, we've seen other teams have success by forcing him out of the pocket.
Now, how about for Dell Rapids here? What are they looking to do tonight? They get the win.
Yeah, I thought a lot about this. Number one, I think they're going to have to score early. And by that, the first or second drive, okay? You just need to set a tone that this is a different Dell Rapids team. We're not the same that you faced all those weeks ago, and we're here to win. We have nothing to lose. We're the number 4 seed, right? And we know in AA football playoffs, it can happen. It's proven it can before. Number 2, the defensive line needs to get into the backfield. I was watching some film, and what do other defenses, we were talking about Millbank, and that's a really good defense that Madison faced this year. So I watched that and some other, the good low-scoring games, and I see these defensive players doing those moves, up, they swim to try to get around rather than just push and try to get an angle. So you need to have some certain techniques to get around the offensive lineman and get in the backfield. And last one, we need our short passes. You see oftentimes, we tend to go long ball, and that's fine, we do that, but you have to set that up. And so I think this week we're going to see a lot more what they call a bench is just like a 10 and out. They're going to be short, quick passes, and I think that'll set up maybe for the second quarter or second half, be able to run those and then have the go long runs. I think you just need to set up the long ball initially.
So, again, it's going to be a great game tonight. The Quarriers at Madison. So, with all of that, final thoughts on tonight's ball game?
Yeah, so, number 1, stay in your game plan. And what I mean by that, football it's a game of possessions. You have to look, how many possessions are we going to have? 2 or maybe 3 offensive possessions a quarter. So that's 8 drives or 12 drives on average. So if you don't score on your first or second, you got to think we have 6 drives left. If they score on 2, we just have to hold them on these. And so you have to think the whole ball game as far as possessions. You want to play in the moment, but it is a long game. There's 8 to 12, more like probably 12 in a game like this. So stick in your game plan. You worked it for a reason. I know the game plan is completely different than the first time we played them.
All right, with that, what are the predictions here for tonight?
Yeah, well, I believe it's going, the weather is supposed to be better than what we thought. 60 degrees, probably 10-mile-an-hour wind. So not too bad. Not like really cold. So I don't think, passing the ball is not going to, be affected. With that, I'm going Dell Rapids 28. So 4 touchdowns to 3 touchdowns. 28-21. Dell Rapids, see you in the Dome.
All right. Well, you know what? I'm going to keep the same score of 28. But I think it's going to come down to an extra point like it did a few years ago.
Yeah.
We're going to block or hold that extra point like we did a few years ago. Another 1-point win, 28-27.
Good.
The Quarriers head to the Dome. So that's our prediction. Again, get out to the game if you can. It's going to be gorgeous for November. You can't beat that weather-wise. Get out there, get loud, cheer for the Quarriers. But again, if you can't be there, Colin will have the call here on Big Sioux Media kickoff at 7 o'clock here on BigSiouxMedia.com.